Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm KandyCorpse, but you can call me Kay, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys some spooky stories that I found online, supposedly, according to eyewitness accounts, true paranormal events. Also, by the way, I didn't even really notice that this was right here. You're sitting in my plants right now. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Like, trying to make himself room. Sir. This first one is, I'd say, like a decent post. Maybe a little bit more on the longer side, but I'll try to get through this quickly without too many pauses and then kind of analyze afterwards. A ghost got in my car at a cemetery. Hello everyone, thought you might like to hear what happened to me tonight. I've been trying to get in more exercise lately and go for walks every day. There's two big cemeteries close to me that are right across the street from each other. I like to go there for walks because one full lap of the pathway around the outside is a little over a mile. I usually go during the day, but sometimes at night because I work night shift and it's the only time I can fit it in. Tonight was one of those nights. I woke up at 5 p.m., ran some errands, and came back home, laid around for a few hours doing nothing, and around 9 p.m. I decided I should go for my walk finally, so I got dressed, drove over to the cemeteries. I parked my car along the fence on the side of the larger one. The entrance to the other was directly across the street. I like to walk through both usually, so I started with the smaller one, taking my time looking at the headstones with my flashlight that I brought. I walked back across the street to the bigger one and started my lap around the outside. I've never really felt anything creepy here, despite my frequent 3 to 4 a.m. visits. Tonight was no different. I took my time enjoying my podcast I was listening to while I stopped and looked around to pick up the little statues and trinkets that I'd knocked over at a different grave. As I was finishing my lap around the outside, I was getting close to where I'd parked just outside the entrance gate. I was coming up from the backside of my car and I could see inside the back window. The streetlight coming through illuminated the very clear silhouette of a man sitting in the back seat of my car. I stopped dead in my tracks and stared for a few seconds just to make sure it wasn't a weird shadow or my brain just inventing things to scare me. At this point, I was assuming there was a living person inside there. I live in a fairly safe place, but not that great of an area. There's been reports lately of people getting their cars broken into, so I assume that's what's going on. I stepped off the pavement and into the rows of headstones to take a wider path around to see into my car from the side. I did bring my gun with me, as I usually do if I'm going to be out walking around at night. I drew it from the holster while staring at the shape of the man in my backseat. I saw his head turn either toward me or the window on the other side. I couldn't really tell because all I could see was the shape, but no details. I stopped behind a headstone large enough to sort of crouch behind. I hit the unlock button on my key fob because I remembered it turns the interior lights on. I was ready to get either a homeless man or a criminal out of the back of my car, but when the lights came on, there was nothing. Whatever or whoever was there had vanished. I walked out the gate and all the way around my car, gun in hand, expecting a person. I looked through the windows, down at the floor, in case they hid or something, even though there isn't really room for someone to hide in a Prius. Anyways, after making sure there was nobody around or any oogity boogities in my car, I jumped in and floored it back home. I've had a few spooky encounters in my life, but this is the first one that really got me good. I feel like I should stage my car or something. That's crazy. I also used to do late night walks frequently. I'm also in a, not like the most dangerous, but also really not a very safe neighborhood either. When I moved in several years ago, there was multiple shootings on my street and even more just in my neighborhood. It's just one of those things where there's just like a high crime rate for the area I live in compared to the population. So, you know, it's a small town, but a high crime rate, a lot of stuff going on. So I totally get the like assuming it was a person, because for all you know, it could have been someone either like waiting for you for one nefarious reason or another, or like they said, a homeless person. Maybe they just wanted to like, maybe they were chilly. We don't know what time of year this happened, so she said get dressed, so you could assume like I actually don't know. So you could assume like, okay, maybe they like put a sweater or a jacket on or something, maybe it's a little colder. So You know, it could be someone stealing, whether it's just regular theft or maybe attempting to get something from the car. Who knows? Like, genuinely, who knows? Like, there literally are so many things that it could have been. At the end of the day, so glad you're safe and so glad there wasn't actually anyone in there, but that would scare me as well. But yeah, if we're talking ghosts, we're talking spirits, apparitions, maybe it was just someone saying hi. You did say you accidentally knocked something over, so maybe it was the person. You know, if we want to look on the positive side and not the negative, I'm gonna go with positive because nothing happened. Like, I feel like with paranormal stuff, not a lot of bad stuff really happens anyway. It's usually just like a random small thing like this every now and then. But my skepticism aside, if we're gonna go with that, maybe it's like, you know, you knocked it over, but you picked it back up and put things back. So maybe it was a person kind of being like, oh, thank you, like, appreciate it, peace, and then just dipping out instead of making things worse. And maybe they're stuck at the cemetery, so it was just nice to kind of have that tiny bit of interaction, almost like, oh, you saw me, you noticed me, like, you know what I mean? Okay, this next one looks to be a little bit shorter than the previous. A friend recorded a really scary psychophony. I'm assuming that means like ghostly phone recording. Hold on, let me look it up. Okay, yeah, so yeah, that's what it is. Spirit talking via the voice of a medium. Oh. I wonder if by medium it just means like any physical medium, so like medium as in person or medium as in like radio, etc. Or if it means medium as in specifically a person who can communicate with the other side. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, to be honest, so it's whatever. Psychophony is the name given by spiritualism and some other spiritualist traditions to the phenomenon where, according to them, a spirit talks using the voice of a medium. Oh, so yeah, it's referring to using the voice of an actual like person, almost like taking over the person. Like, okay, so now we know what that word means. We as in me, because I need to know. I'm the reader, and y'all know too if you didn't before. I'm not sure what to think about this. My brother's friend, someone I know and trust, went through something really disturbing about 2 weeks ago. He witnessed a very gory and violent accident and was so shocked that he decided to send a voice message to a doctor friend describing everything in detail. At some point in the recording, his voice suddenly cuts off and you can clearly hear a woman's voice saying, "What do I do? What do I do? Lord, help me." She sounded scared and desperate. The victim was a woman, according to the news. We were completely freaked out. We got chills all over. He's not the kind of person who would ever prank us, which makes it even scarier, and we saw the conversation, and it looked real. I still have the audio, but I don't know how to upload it on here. It's in Spanish, and honestly, it really messed me up. I even felt chills and chest tightness after hearing it. Everyone who did felt the same way. I just wanted to share this because it was so shocking. Has anyone experienced something like this before? I got so scared I couldn't sleep, and I want to know if I should cleanse of something at this point. So I guess it's like asking if they should cleanse of like negative energy, maybe is probably what they're going for. Clearly, if this happened, I just have to like move my foot because I'm sitting on the floor right now and my foot's falling asleep. Anyway, it kind of sounds like if this is a real story, either the recording itself just like cut out and like caught the voice of the woman. So like in terms of like ghostly stuff, it would be like catching her voice after she'd already passed. So she passed in the accident, but maybe that was like her apparition repeating her final thoughts or like her final words, or maybe that is her thinking that, but obviously with it being like what happened, like something, you know, just like one of those things where like this, like the spirit, or with it using the word that he used, it makes it seem like they watched him do the voice recording and like he was still talking, but the woman's voice was coming through, which would still be, you know, like the ghostly thing like they were talking about. And it could be along the same things, like obviously repeating that, either repeating the last words, maybe they didn't know they had already passed and thought, you know, this is like, oh my God, like thought they could still, you know, like pray, you know, beg God for, to let them live. So maybe they didn't realize that they had already passed before they had said this. Whatever it is. Speaking of, something just took my voice away. Wow. Regardless, whatever it is, I've never actually seen anything like that. Like, I've heard stories of things like that. And, you know, I've heard and seen things about, with like the radio and technology and stuff, like cutting out and you hearing a different voice and then it coming back in and whatnot. But I've never actually seen the psychophony. I still don't know if I'm pronouncing that word right, but anyway, but I've never actually seen that where I'm like talking to someone, and like I've seen, you know, with people having like dissociative identity disorder, not comparing them at all, by the way, I'm just using this as an example of voice changes where like someone switches and their voice does change slightly, whether it's like a pitch lower or the way they speak shifts slightly. So that's the only thing like mentally that I have seen that I can kind of compare this to, I guess, because the only other thing that comes to mind is, of course, the Conjuring movies, and we all know about, you know, like Ed and Lorraine Warren, you know, and the whole, was it real, was it fake, was it all a big conspiracy, all the controversies. And if you don't know, feel free to look it up, or, you know, let me know and I can kind of make a separate video analyzing it. The point is, that's weird and that's creepy, and for them to fully believe that this person isn't pranking them, but also for their voice to like change like that. Like, yes, some people, like there's voice actors, some people can make their voice sound, if they're like really masculine, can make it sound really feminine and like swap it, but most people can't. Like, that's not like a super common skill, and that's not something that people do frequently anyway. So that's really weird and that's really creepy. Okay, so this final story seems to be a little bit longer than the first one, but again, I'm just gonna try to get through this super quick with as little pauses as possible, and then kind of give you my thoughts at the end. There's something in the storage facilities behind my apartment. The story is long, but it's all true. I live in the suburbs of Nashville near a man-made lake. I'm not sure what I'm dealing with, but the vibe of which I'm thinking is something I would have never thought would be in these parts. Either way, I was pretty shaken up last night. With it saying in these parts, it's making me think that this specific retelling of their personal encounter, like their story, is going to be more along the lines of a cryptid or a creature from some type of like folklore. So now you've got me interested, because that's interesting. Or maybe they just mean because it's like a newly developed area, so they didn't expect spirits and whatnot. My apartment complex is tiny, but our backyard is a good size, and it backs up to a storage facility that my balcony overlooks. I've lived in my second floor apartment for 3 years, never had any experiences until about 6 months ago. It was either right before or right after my senior dog died. I don't remember exactly, but I know it was within days. It started one night. I was on the balcony, and in the distance toward the back of the facility, off to the side where the neighborhood is, I hear someone calling a name. It gets closer, but the way it's calling it almost sounded like someone was looking for a lost dog or a pet or something. So I don't think anything of it at first. Once it gets close enough, I hear it's calling my dog's name. I'm not the one that freaks out easily, even with spooky things, try to maintain my power, but I got goosebumps and just quickly and calmly went inside and closed my door. A little bit later, I'm inside, watching TV, about to call it a night, and I hear the calling again. My bedroom window, which faces the backyard, is open, and from my living room, it sounded like the voice was in my backyard. I thought it was calling my dog's name. I froze on my couch. I did pretty well to appear unbothered, but I was very much bothered. Then all of a sudden it sounded like the voice was in my bedroom window, and it was calling my child's name. Keep in mind, I'm on the second floor. I got up quickly, calmly went to my room, shut my window, my blinds, turned off my light, and slept on my couch. A couple months later, I'm on the balcony chatting a fellow I was in courtship with. Okay, so this person is not American. There's nothing wrong with saying it that way. That just really threw me off. I love it though. Like that's what I'm gonna start saying. The fellow that I'm in current courtship with. I love that though. Like I'm gonna start saying that. Like that's great. I love that. It just, I don't know what it was. It just, I don't hear that often, and that made me chuckle. It's broad daylight. My neighbor and her dog are down at the end of the yard in the dog park. We're chatting via voice notes, and the guy and I get onto the subject of the paranormal and ask me if I had any experiences. I said, "Oh, do I have a story for you? This was actually really recent." As I begin telling him the story, I hear a voice like in the middle of the storage facility. I think nothing of it till all of a sudden it sounds like it's near the property line, closer to my end of the yard, and I hear, clear as day, Ruby, my neighbor's dog's name. It's on the voice note. Mike didn't pick it up great, but you can hear the voice and you can hear me say, "Holy shit, there it is. It's calling my neighbor's dog's name. Can you hear it?" And in the next recording, I'm sitting there waiting to see if I catch it. Nothing. But as soon as I start talking any further, you hear Ruby. So there's my proof. Again, I went inside unbothered. I feel very blessed and protected, and honestly, I wasn't too worried about whatever might be on this land. I pay no mind to it, and I set my boundaries. Even though I had proof that my mind wasn't making this up, I kind of just go on about my life. However, last night, I was on my balcony, relaxing as I was thinking about heading inside. I heard someone in the neighborhood's beagle start howling out of nowhere. Then I heard a voice call. I figured they were calling their dog because the dog went silent. The voice called about 3 more times. By the 3rd time, I noticed it was getting closer, coming from the storage facility. As soon as I realized it was approaching, my heart sank. The voice called again, closer and loud and clear. It was calling my name. I froze for a second. Surely I didn't hear my name. It called again. Yes, it did. It did call my name. The voice sounded like it was from a normal woman, but the tone, the feel, it was sinister. All the hair on my arms raised and my gut filled with dread. I knew I had to accept that this was indeed real, and it was not good. Before I could even try to control myself, I got up, whirled into my apartment, slammed my door, turned off my lights, and stayed on the phone with my best friend for about 2 hours. We prayed, sprinkled salt, and reinforced my boundaries. I still felt the presence for a while. Alas, after a while, it moved on, and after a while, I got a good night's sleep, but I still get goosebumps whenever I remember its voice. I'm just glad I'm moving in a month. Ooh! I wonder if the moving is related to hearing someone or something calling your name. I have also heard very similar things. The most notably that I can remember is hearing my name. And like there was one time specifically, and I don't know why, but like this has happened to me a few times, whatever, hearing someone calling my name, thinking, turning around, there's no one there. But specifically there was this one time, and I was like talking to somebody, but we weren't like actually together. There was just like weird shit going on with that in general. Anyway, the point is, I remember specifically because I had like totally gone no contact with this person just for like some weird shit that they were doing. And I had my headphones in and I had my music all the way up, and I was walking and I heard a voice, and like this was just a Walkman. So it was just my CD that I'd heard hundreds of times. Like I listened to the same, like I have a bit more of a collection now, but I still listen to the same few over and over again. So I like pulled my thing and I'm like looking around. I'm on a bike trail and there's like, it's paved. There's plenty of like, you can clearly see when someone, if there's like a curve up around the bend, you can't see it because it's a turn. Like there's still trees and stuff. Like this does go through a little bit of like a foresty area kind of, but it's also, there's like a road and houses right here and the river right here. So there's like, anyway, you don't need to know all that. The point is, you could clearly see if someone was close enough to be like hollering your voice, especially loud enough to be able to hear over my headphones. So I turn, no one there. Put them back on. I hear something again. I hear my name being called, and I'm pissed because I know it's not this man. And I turn around and there's nothing. And then I get this like weird sinking feeling, and I'm walking, and then it sounds like my mom is yelling my name, but like she's pissed. So like now I know. All I know is I don't know what happened. I don't know what I did, but clearly I pissed her off and I'm about to get whooped. You know what I mean? Like right? So I'm expecting to see like my angry mother walking towards me or something like that. Like I did something and it like, you know, like did something bad. And so my mom like followed me or whatever, maybe thinking I was like running away or something, when really I had no idea what was going on. And I was going on a walk because I needed to calm down, right? But there was no one there. But it was weird, and it totally could have been like psychologically because I was like super stressed at the time. So like for whatever reason, even though I was stressed about like a different person, a different situation, I like in the back of my mind heard my mom yelling at me because I was stressed. Who knows? But what I can say is that was really weird, and it's not the first time I've had something like that happen to me, or that I've had something try to like get to me through my pets. Like I've definitely had weird stories, and I'm gonna keep like personal paranormal experiences and stories, especially if they're a bit more detailed, to a minimum, because I do plan on posting videos where I talk about my experiences specifically. I think I might already have one, but it's like super old from a few years ago, and I was planning on like continuously uploading periodically my own stories. But clearly I don't upload regularly, so that just hasn't happened yet, but it is on my list of things to record very soon. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out in my lucky plant. This is actually like a seedling. You're a little vining seedling, or like sprout, whatever, that my mom gave me. And you're being held up by 2 lucky clovers that grew out of it, and we have no idea how those 2 seeds ended up in this pot. So cheers to you for that. Anyways, this matcha is so good, but my, what'd she say? My courtship, whatever she said, my courtship, whatever, just texted me about our dinner plans tonight. So I gotta go. Anyways, love you. Goodbye.